I was saving this question till the end because I know you mentioned a crazy story from Midnight Run that you didn't want to share, but I wanted to see if I can try to get it out of you. You said I'd rather not share that. Is there something that you're willing to?
Well, I have to swear a little bit,
Oh, that's
so,
fine.
you know,
This is
I,
mainly an adult audience.
well, we did, when Bob and I did the audition, I went in and we said hello and blah, 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 and everybody was in their room. And then Marty, I think Marty probably did it on purpose, but he said, "Hey, could you guys just hold on a minute? Cause I got to go do something." And everybody got up and left, and he left Bob and I alone. And I think Marty did it on purpose. He wanted us to get to know it. So we chatted a little bit and, you know, how you doing? And blah, blah, blah. I really kind of small talked and stuff. And then they all came back in the room and said, okay, So we read this scene and there's a part in the movie where I get him and Grodin in the alley and I take care of the two bad guys. And we're
Yeah.
in the alley and I said, give me the keys,
Yep.
Jack.
The
And
Italians.
he throws them in the sewer, and anyway, so that's the scene we're reading. I said, so Deniro and I are doing it, and he picks up a matchbook and he goes to hand it to me, and then he just dropped the matchbook and stared at me. And I looked at him. I said, "Fuck you," and he said, "Fuck you too." I said, "Go fuck yourself." So, so, and I know he wanted to see if I would pick it up. And I looked at it. I did. I mean, we did it in character.
Yeah.
So, and I'll guarantee you, every other actor probably picked it up. They handed it back to him, and I just looked at it and said, "Fuck you." And I mean, and and then they all there. Everybody was laughing, and then that's when George told me later. That's when I walked out. Bobby said, "I want him," because I think he wanted somebody to stand up to him.
Yeah.
He wanted to challenge that. That
Yeah.
you know pull and tug thing going on, which was and believe me, Dorfler in the beginning in the original script was a real nasty bad guy. I mean, he was really ugly, and I found the humor in him. I
Yeah.
had an actor friend of mine that told me years ago, and gave me the greatest advice I ever got: don't ever play a bad guy like a bad guy. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, do you know anybody that when they're kids, they say, when I grow up, I want to be a bad guy? He said, you're not a bad guy. You're just doing your job.
Mm-hmm.
And you sometimes end up being a bad guy by doing your job, but just you're a guy doing your job. And that's how I approach Dorfler. Jack, you're in my fucking way. I'm trying to do my job. Get out of my fucking way. And that's what Bobby wanted, that push and shove, And so I brought a little humor to that, It was just, I didn't play him like some nasty old bad guy, I just played him straight. And it's like, hey, I'm trying to get a job here, So in the original script, Dorfler was killed in the original script of Midnight Run. In the scene in Las Vegas, when I showed the two bad guys the picture of Grodin with the towels in the motel,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "Here, I got him back at the motel," and they see the name of the motel on the
Yeah.
towels, so they know where he is.
Yeah.
Well, in the original script, they shoot me, they kill me,
Oh,
because I
wow.
say, "Hey, I wanted $1 million, now I want 2, and blah blah," and they just go boom, and they blow me away.
Wow.
Well, we had been shooting for about a month on the road, and Marty had seen the character develop the way I was developing the character instead of this ugly bad guy. And Marty just made a decision. He just said, "We can't kill Dorfler. The audience will hate us if we kill Dorfler."
Yeah,
You
no,
know.
it would have been
So,
worse. Yeah.
I mean, we were, I think, shooting in Arizona at the time, and Marty came up. He said he got George Gallo flew to the set, and he said, "You rewrite the ending." So they had to keep me alive because Marty said that we can't kill Dorfler. So George put me at the end in the airport and screwing everything up at the airport, and which was originally not in the original script. So we got to the scene with the two bad guys with Bobby and Richie, and Marty goes, "Hey, wait a minute. This is where you're supposed to get killed." He said, "Now you're not going to die. So what do we do?" And I said, Just have him knock me out. What, and Marty goes, "Oh, great idea." So now, in the movie, they just go boom and they knock me out, and I live. So
No,
a
you
little
make it.
bit of
Oh,
inside info there. So
that's all. I mean, you make a really good point. I mean, you're no more of a bad guy than De Niro's role. You guys are both bounty hunters, right? It's just, one gets the job first.
we keep getting in each other's way. We're trying to get the bounty on them.
Yeah,
So
and the audience as well too. I mean, there was a motivation, for you as well to kind of have a happier ending. Like you were kind of getting the shit end of the stick. You were
right.
getting job two, and you were getting a lower bounty at first, and it was just you make a good point. I mean, that there's a lot of bad guys in movies, and you want to root for the bad guys in some time, and in many of the cases, and when they're played right, kind of like how you
Right.
did in Midnight Run. No, that was awesome. And
Well,
I would have been disappointed if you had been killed.
that's what Marty hit the nail on the head. I think he was very right in that. I'm glad he did it. But well, in that scene when we're getting shot at the helicopter, and Bobby and I are standing there, and I say, "How much you get?" And he said, "I'm getting 100. How much you get?" And I say, 25. And he goes, "Oh, I'm getting 100." And I go, "Son of a bitch,"
Yeah.
So after I was allowed to live in the film at the very end, um, I went to the producers and I said, "Hey, how about at the end of the film, uh, when Bobby's goes to the cab, instead of going to a cab, he goes, Dorfler pulls up, and he goes, 'Hey, Marvin, I'll give you 25,000 for a ride downtown.' So Marvin at the end gets his 25 grand, you
Yep.
know."
Yep.
And they said, "Oh, what a great idea!" But we already shot that scene. They'd already shot it,
Yeah.
so they couldn't do it. But I thought it would have been cool for he just got the what 300 grand
Yeah.
from the Duke, so
Dude,
he gives Marvin his 25 grand for a ride downtown. I thought that would have been cool, but they'd
that
already shot that in. So.
Yeah, and I know Midnight Run had some straight to TV sequels, which weren't really relating too much to the original movie. But there was also some talks, I think, about 8 years ago about a true sequel to Midnight Run. But I think that just started to die. I don't know if you heard about that, but they were talking about making a true sequel to Midnight Run. I'm sure it would have included you as well.
Yeah, I read the script a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I read the script, and
Wasn't
it never happened. I happened to be in LA at the time, and Bobby was in LA, and he had flown in, and I was flying out the next morning, and they wanted to have a read through of the script the next day, and I already had I was flying out the next day, so I read the script and I called and I just said, "Hey, I can't. I got a flight," and then Dorfler and those guys had very minor roles, and it was all about Broden's son and Bobby's son, and it was a weird script anyway, so
Yeah.
it never got done. Well, that I shouldn't say that. They may do it. I don't know, but I mean, I flew his son somewhere, and I can't remember the whole thing. But anyway,
and John, you're
it'd be cool if it'd be cool if they did it. But you got to bring the same people back.
yeah.
You can't make a whole new movie out of it and have the original people play little minor roles in it.
Yeah.
That's not the way it should be done.
No, and definitely. I mean, I feel like you guys all still got it. So I don't think anything's really. It'd be funny to see you guys kind of pick up the same beefs from back then in a true sequel.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to George Gallo, who wrote the original one, and he had an idea that to open it, he just had the opening. He thought this would be a cool opening. It opens in a coffee shop with Jack. Finally got his coffee shop that he wants. So he's sitting at the counter drinking coffee, and Marvin's cooking in the kitchen,
Oh wow,
and
that would
then
be great.
and then he can and then Jack gets a phone call, and then he says, "Hey, Marvin, I got to leave." And then Marvin knows that he got a job and he's going out. And then
Great start. That
I
would have
mean,
been a great
George,
start.
she's a great writer. He said that's just the opening that I thought of. That Marvin's cooking in the coffee shop that Jack buys. So I thought it was a great opening.
That would be awesome.